it's unfortunate that people, even in this kind of a space, commercialize it and are non-transparent about it. At the Bansidhar Ila Panda Foundation, I realized that I must have meticulous processes. I must have a sustainable outcome with exit policies and a very strict monitoring and evaluation process. My visions was to make them scalable. And to do that, you cannot spread yourself too thin. You can't be everything to everybody. I put up some very strict policies which said these are the verticals we deal with and these are the ones we don't deal with. So you have to turn down sort of suggestions, requests. When you feel bad turning someone down, is that I know that the decision I have taken is something that will create a greater impact in the spaces that I'm working in. I don't think what you do for a living should change your being. Success to me today is about agency, access, and igniting potential. I think it's about sustainable change that results in generational change. And it is only then that we can say that we have truly made an impact.
Hi, Shaifalika, and welcome to the AboutHer Show, a show where we get trailblazing women to share the story of their lives with us. To tell us about their successes, failures, ups and downs, challenges, all of it, so that not only do they get a platform to showcase themselves, but they also help us inspire other women. Women who are listening in or watching the episode, women who have dreams, ambitions, but for some reason have not been able to follow those dreams. So we want them to get inspired and just go for their dream. And along with women, we also get men on the show because we believe that for a truly gender inclusive world, men and women need to be allies in this journey. Now, when I was looking at your profile and the kind of work that you are doing, what really struck me as being very impressive was the fact that you decided to give back. A lot of us are interested in knowing what we can get out of the world in which we live in, make more money, we look for happiness in material things, where you've chosen to do something which involves giving back to the society through the foundation with the kind of work that you're doing in the space of education, health, community development. I think it is something which really needs to be applauded, recognized, and talked about. So, like I said, a very, very warm welcome to you, and we definitely need to know more about what you're doing.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome. So, let's get started. The first question. So, before foundations and global platforms happen to you, what experiences in your early life quietly shaped your sense of responsibility and empathy?
So, Sangeeta, I grew up in a home where both my parents worked and contributed equally to the family.
Okay.
My father personified responsibility. His father passed away when he was in his early 20s, and he practically raised his siblings.
Okay.
And my mother was the epitome of empathy. Anybody who has come in touch with her cannot but help feel that warmth and kindness. But she has also been a trailblazer, where in the early 70s, she pioneered home furnishings exports in the country. And she was, supplying to large department stores and well-known department stores like Harrods, Galeries Lafayette, and Neiman Marcus in the US, etc.
Okay.
But what struck me about that was that, she went to Sanganer in Jaipur at a time where people did not know the intricacies of block printing and screen printing. She was a textile designer. She trained them and she actually enabled livelihoods. So watching this work ethic, watching the sense of responsibility in the house, watching the kindness, and the fact that, they were looking at enabling lives, I guess, is what inadvertently shaped my being.
Well, yes, you made a very important point here because, the kind of upbringing that we get has a very, very integral role to play, in the way our personalities shape up. We don't realize, certain things are not said to us, But as children, we observe, we imbibe a lot of what is happening around us. So clearly, that is what happened with you as well. So I think as parents, also, we need to be mindful of what we are giving to our children silently. That I think is very, very important because they tend to pick on those things. All
Oh,
right.
absolutely. Also, that we're two sisters and I have two daughters.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
suppose we don't need to fight for gender equity.
No, not at all. Not at all. All right. So tell me, when you decided to go into the space of social impact, was there ever a moment when you questioned choosing this over a more conventional or predictable path?
Well, actually, I started my journey with a more conventional path. I
Oh,
don't know if you're aware of it, but straight out of college, I trained in the family textile business, and then I went on to set up an entrepreneurial venture of my own uh, in pioneering the import of luxury goods in India,
okay.
luxury furniture, interiors to be very specific. But somewhere along the line, I realized that I was moving away from the for profit sector with certain experiences that I was having in life. And then I sort of very pointedly took the calling to switch careers after probably a good 14, 15 years and then get into the social impact space. So
Okay.
for me, it was a very deliberate move after several years in a predictable career to move to what is not so predictable.
Wow. So what led you to this? I mean, why did you choose to do this?
Um, I realize that somewhere when you're fortunate enough and you see that kind of disparity, you should do something about it. Um, Adding to one more business or something is commendable, but I guess it was a calling, as I said.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was just drawn towards that space.
So maybe again, it was your upbringing, the way you were raised and what you observed as a child that came to you at that point, somewhere, at the back of your mind, and you decided to do something more than just like you said, adding just one more business when there are already so many out there. Okay. So tell me, is there any particular encounter or moment from your work in Odisha that has stayed with you and it has, in a way, changed how you see development or leadership?
So actually, my development and leadership instincts for this social impact space
Hmm.
started before I ventured into my work in Odisha.
Okay.
Um, I would look at a lot of uh, disparities. I came across actually an experience in life where I realized that people don't even have dignity in death. Families sometimes don't even have money for the last rites of their loved ones.
Hmm.
And that's something that really sort of struck me. So at a very young age, I said, okay, so what if I'm doing some work, but this can be my charity. This can be my way of giving back.
Hmm.
So I got involved with an NGO in Delhi and I said, okay, so why don't I make this, my give back space? But I realized very quickly that it's unfortunate that people, even in this kind of a space, commercialize it and are non-transparent about it. And that was my very first lesson. And it made me realize three things.
Hmm.
Irrespective of whether you're working in a for-profit sector or not-for-profit sector, you really need to have SOPs and meticulous processes.
Yeah.
The second was you should not assume that the people around you will have the same outlook as you. And therefore, capacity building of your employees, especially even in the not for profit sector, is very, very critical.
Hmm.
And the third is that sustainability is non negotiable. It is much better to enable lives as opposed to just give somebody or provide something to somebody, because that is what is going to bring about change for the long term. So, because of these learnings that I had when I did start and spearhead the Bansidhar Ila Panda Foundation, I realized that I must have meticulous processes. I must have a sustainable outcome with exit policies and a very strict monitoring and evaluation process.
Yes, I think you have summed it up so beautiful. And what I picked up most was that you've got to enable people. Just giving them something is not going to make that much of a difference when we're looking at it from a long-term perspective than enabling them and, making them capable of taking charge of their lives in a more holistic way. I think that
Yes.
is something which needs to be kept in mind. And of course, like you said, not everybody in this sector will have that point of view, but that's how I guess you stand out because you believe in that and that's what you're doing. So, you're working very closely with communities. Okay, so which means that you get to witness the deep inequities that exist in our society. So tell me, how do you personally hold space for grief or frustration without losing hope?
So, despite having witnessed my fair share of inequities in my arena of work, there was this visit I had to a tribal village in South Odisha,
Okay.
which left me extremely low because the level of disparity there was something I had not seen prior to this. The level of poverty, the fact that they had no toilets, no source of water. And despite that condition of theirs, they only greeted me with warmth and love and gratitude. And the dignity with which they welcomed me there said more than anything they could have through a request.
Right, right.
And, when you witness that, I mean, I just feel very, very grateful that I'm in a decision-making position because then I could take some action. I could sort of implement some programs in that space. And I guess that's what keeps me going and keeps me full of hope because, for every person that may not be able to address the situation, there will at least be a handful who can say, I will take action on something that I see.
That is again something, because like a lot of us may feel strongly about certain things, but we may not be in a position to take that action. So I think you're actually taking it to a natural conclusion because that's what it should finally conclude with, because action is what matters. I mean, you're feeling bad or sad about a situation. It's not going to make a difference till you can actually do it. But then, of course, not everybody is in that position. But tell me, even when you decided to make social impact, maybe the goal or the objective of your life, of your journey, sometimes it is difficult to actually find the right way to do it, find your voice, get the confidence, the ability to actually, do it. So my question to you is that, was there a time in your journey when you would to step into leadership, or you had to step into that leadership, or giving that confidence role before you yourself felt ready?
So, there are many instances you have to go out there and you have to speak on a subject or something. And
Yeah.
you're not always ready. I mean, for example, I may come into this interview and you may ask me a question I'm not prepared for.
Hmm.
But this was when I was in a leadership position at FICCI Young Leaders.
Okay.
And this is completely unrelated to my work, but they had a team from NASA visiting India. And FICCI had the mandate to set the agenda. And one of the things was that they were visiting and engaging with students at Delhi University.
Okay.
So I was asked to represent FICCI and go with them
Okay.
and be a part of the panels and discussions. And here I'm thinking to myself, I didn't even like science. I'm not a tech person. What
Oh,
exactly am I doing here? What am I going to say?
right, right.
So you just have to put all that self doubt behind you, put yourself out there, and just go for it. So that these are the learning curves. This is what gives you exposure. And this is what also actually many times you don't realize, but conversations actually helps you bring your inner voice forward.
Right, right,
Think
right,
about it. Many a time you might be just sitting home, and if you're not always introspecting, right?
right,
You're
right.
not always thinking deep, but in a conversation with somebody, there will be something that will come out and you'll realize, okay, really,
Hmm.
that's an idea. This is something I can do differently, or this is something that I should do. So I
Yes.
think you find your voice in conversations and these kind of spaces as well.
Absolutely. It's another point of view because you are used to your own way of thinking, and your way of thinking is limited. You can only think up to a point, but when you have a conversation with someone, you're exchanging views, you're exchanging ideas. Yes, new ideas, new ways of doing things will come up to you. And I think, yes, that's how they help. And in these kind of situations, I think sometimes it's these ideas, these experiences that just help us sail through, right? Okay. Now, of course, we try out different things that we want to do, and we're doing them because we want to do them. But many a times it happens that what we wanted to come out of something, how should I say, the impact or the result that we were looking for doesn't really come about. So, can you share a moment when something you deeply believed in didn't work out, and what did that experience teach you about humility, resilience, and all of that?
So, when I started working at the grassroots level in Odisha, um, I was very particular, as I mentioned earlier, that I was framing my programs. I had very specific outcomes that the KPIs were set, the outcomes were set, a stipulated time period for the execution of the project.
Hmm.
But when you worked with communities on the ground, their lived realities have a direct correlation to the speed of the outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And that you only learn when you're at the ground level, when you're working with them.
Correct.
So while we would have all our programs designed after need-based assessments at the ground level, but you also realize that co-creation of programs with the community is way more important and effective for the project to be a success and for it to be sustainable.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that was a real lesson in humility, to say you don't know it all. They do know what is good for them. It's not like they don't.
Right.
They need us as a catalyst for change. They don't need us to impose our ideas on them.
Right. Right. Right.
Right. And that also made me realize that they are not the only one whose resilience we need to build. We need to build our own resilience because, for example, if I take, let's say, my adolescent health program across districts,
Hmm.
okay, or if I take my self-help group project across districts, the timeline to implement the same program is going to be different based on their geography, based on their social status, based on their capability.
Right. Right.
So I need to be flexible. I need to be agile to say, I understand this reality, and that's what I'm going to do.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that is where, you've learned to be resilient and you've learned to be agile to the situation and the challenges that you come up with on the spot.
That's true because I think many times when we are doing something for somebody, it could be anyone, we, do things the way we think they should be done. We are looking
Absolutely.
at those things from our lens, our perspective, without realizing that the people who are at the other side, those at the receiving end, they may be wanting them differently because they are the ones who are actually living that, like you said, the lived experience. That makes all the difference. What I think sitting in my home vis-a-vis what is actually required could be poles apart. And that is something.
As simple as, if you're teaching them savings and credits, if you're teaching them bank linkages, if you're teaching them livelihood skills, they will learn it at the speed of their capacity, their capability, their literacy levels. And this is going to differ from area to area.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think, yes, you have to come to terms with that. And like they said, give them what they want, when they want, how they want. It's not about ticking a box, it is about actually making a difference. Right. All right. Now, you're leading these various, projects and the foundation and all of that. And of course, the entire process of leadership can be deeply fulfilling. You're doing something that you want to do and you're enabling and helping people. But then leadership is also very isolating. It's also very lonely at times. It can get lonely at times. So, when something like this happens to you, if it has happened, who or what grounds you or has grounded you when your decisions feel too heavy or they, you just feel as if you're not really doing what you should be doing or something like that.
You're absolutely right, Sangeeta. Leadership does come with hard decisions, right? Or the position of leadership calls for hard decisions, I should say.
Yeah.
When I started out with the mandate of CSR at IMFA, uh, at that point, we did an analysis and we realized that, of course, we were, you know, helping communities, we were reacting to their requests, and we were looking at several programs, whether it was something in skill or water sanitation. But also we realized that we were looking at too broad spectrum a bucket, right? So if somebody came to us with a request in sanitation, we would sort of oblige. If somebody came to us with a suggestion in something in disability, we would oblige. But when I sort of took over, I realized that it was very, very important to streamline these outreach programs, to make sure that we are able to make them sustainable. And one of my visions was to make them scalable. And to do that, you cannot spread yourself too thin. You can't be everything to everybody. So I had to take the hard decision of saying, you know what, for example, we are not going to work in the mental health space, or we're not going to work in the disability space. And I put up some very strict policies which said these are the verticals we deal with and these are the ones we don't deal with. So you have to turn down sort of suggestions, requests, partnerships, collaborations across that spectrum. And the only thing that keeps you going in such times is when you feel bad turning someone down, is that I know that the decision I have taken is something that will create a greater impact in the spaces that I'm working in.
Right.
It will help more people, it'll have a ripple effect, and it'll grow stronger because I'm focused on it and I will be able to do more justice to it.
Absolutely. Because, like you said, if you spread yourselves too thin, you may be coming from a space where you want to help everyone and anyone, but practically speaking, you can't do that. Resources, time, all of those things are limited. You cannot
Yeah.
spread them all over and ultimately, end up helping no one. So again, it's not about what you want to do, but what is going to be more effective, what is going to be more sustainable, more consistent. Those are the kind of things, that you need to look at and focus on. All right. So tell me, you're playing these different roles of, you're a leader, a policy advocate, a philanthropist, and of course, a mother, a wife, and all of those. So tell me these roles that are, so to say, the public roles, where you are
Mhm.
helping other people. So while doing all that, how do you stay connected to who you are beyond these roles? The Shifalika who has nothing to do with all this, but is just a woman.
Well, deep down inside, I'm the same person. I have the same values. I have the same likes. I have the same friends.
Yeah,
I don't think what you do for a living should change your being,
right.
right? So I'm still my very own person that I always was. There is a very easygoing and fun side to me, which anyone in the office will not believe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Uh, so, I think that is what keeps us going and stay grounded beyond the leadership and the titles and the roles that we have.
Right.
Um, in the last few years, I've also, by design, made it a point to balance my priorities. Family was always, of course, one of the priorities, but also balance me time, self time.
Right.
Whatever that may be for you, whatever that may be for someone. For me, I like my wildlife photography, I like family trips, I like music, I like scuba diving. So I make time for all these things.
Right. I think that's what keeps you, how should I say, balanced and sane also, because life is not all about work. You have to feed your soul. You also have to do other things which are lighthearted, which don't require, a lot of thought. It's just they come naturally to you. So if I know you love to sing, so that is something which just kind of helps you unwind. So I think indulging in those kind of activities, which are, hobbies, pastimes, whatever, I think those are essential for keeping your, how should I say, keeping your personality intact and more wholesome. Right. Okay, so going back to your work and the G20 experience. Now, as we all understand and know, representing India at the G20 was definitely a very, very significant moment of your professional journey. So tell me, on a personal level, what did that experience challenge in you or awaken within you?
So I was a part of the G20 Empower
Okay,
committee. And the mandate for us was to focus on women's leadership across entrepreneurship, education, and tech skills.
okay,
The challenge, of course, is to deliver many or to achieve many deliverables, such as, creating digital platforms, mentorship platforms, the Empower Playbook, the Communique, etc., and in a very short span of time, and that too with the consent of all the representatives across the G20 nations.
right.
So, of course, it was a great lesson for me. It was a great learning curve for me, and it taught me a lot about diplomacy as well. I'm quite a blunt and straightforward person, so that was one of my um, takeaways. The other, I would say, I realized that, if you have to achieve something at scale, then you have to have a very ambitious vision. And it's very important that um, you use and leverage partnerships to
Right.
create these products. And that is how I think India was a success and left a legacy at the G20 conclave.
Hmm. That I think, yes, diplomacy, I think we all need. I mean, especially people who are very straightforward. And that is the way to go forward in life and building partnerships, collaborations, and understanding what each one of us brings to the table. Because that's how we can work towards the collective good or the collective, benefit of society and community at large. Okay.
I mean, absolutely. If you look at the fact that, if I work in the social impact space,
Right.
by myself, there is absolutely nothing I will be able to achieve. I won't be even a drop in the ocean,
Right.
right?
Mm.
But the idea is whatever area, however big or small you are, make sure that the impact is deep. Bring in the collaborative players, the partners who have different expertise.
Correct.
And that will also reduce the duplication of work that ends up happening if people operate in silos.
Absolutely. That is such a well-made point because yes, where is the point in duplication? Get together. And if this is, like I said, your vision, the larger good of the society, community. So it's better to get together, collaborate, and do more good rather than just, repeating the whole thing. Okay. So we all grow up, with these notions of being successful in life, whatever, that definition means it means different things to different people. But if you were to look at yourself and how you understand success now vis-a-vis how you understood it earlier, my question is, how has your definition of success evolved when you first began this journey to where you are today?
So I would say that success to me today is about agency, access, and igniting potential.
Wow, wow.
While, it is very important to look at the numbers,
Yeah,
but numbers don't tell the full story. So,
yes.
in the space that I work in, I think it's about sustainable change that results in generational change. And it is only then that we can say that we have truly made an impact.
So it's more about quality than quantity, right? It is a qualitative impact which cannot always be measured because it's intangible. But that's what it is.
I mean, it'll be visible for sure.
But yes, it'll take time.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
You
Like it
have to
won't.
you have to be committed for the long term. You
Yes,
have to, make sure that you are looking at systemic change. You cannot go in for these sporadic short-term interventions. That
yes.
is critical.
So you have to be there in it, for the longer haul. You just cannot be there for some time and then leave it. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, Shifalika, very interesting thing. You often say that intergenerational change begins within communities. So, when you look ahead, what kind of a change do you hope the next generation will inherit because of the work being done today?
See, the key is that, yes, you're right that I do talk about intergenerational change at the community level. And that's because when you work with communities at large, there is a ripple effect of the work that you do. You have to work at the mindset of the people. You have to work at changing those very traditional cultural norms. But at the same time, if we are looking at becoming a Viksit Bharat by 2047, what is really, really important is that, the youth of today are going to be in their 40s at that time.
Right.
The children born today are going to be in their 20s at that time. And these are all a part of the working age population.
Correct.
And they must be contributing towards national growth.
Right.
And for that to happen, I think it is crucial that we should have them inherit equal opportunity across the spectrum, be it health, be it education, or be it skills.
Right, right, right. That is, I think, very important, that the idea of equal opportunity. Because not only are you giving them the opportunity to do something now, but you're also inculcating that, element, that feeling of fairness, equity, all of those things you're ingraining in those children today. And these children, as you said, are going to be part of the working population. So they are going to carry this legacy forward. So we
Yeah,
have.
absolutely. Look at it. In the early years, we should have interventions to make sure they have, the neonatal care and then the infant care, the basic health parameters. They should have equal opportunity to education, and that to quality education. When we go into the adolescent years, it is a different stage of their uh, life, and we must continue to assist them at that point with adolescent health issues, career guidance,
Right.
mentorship, and skills, because that is when they will be able to be productive and contribute towards,
Yes,
taking India into 2047.
absolutely. Invest in them today. Only then will be able to see them reap what we want India to be like, at that point. Okay. Shifalika, tell me, if you could speak to a younger version of yourself, just starting out, what would you tell her to hold on to, and what would you ask her to let go of?
That's an interesting question. Um, I think I would tell my younger self to let go of self-criticism.
Okay.
As human beings, all of us have a habit to be very critical about ourselves. We will be nicer to friends around us, but we're always very critical. And I guess it also comes with a bit of self-doubt that you have. So you should put yourself out there and take more risks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In terms of what she should hold on to, I would say values, ethics, and I would advise her to stay hungry and stay foolish in whatever she does.
So stay natural and not get affected by the world. Stay true to yourself in terms of your
Be
values.
yourself. Yeah, there
Your-
is no point in changing for anyone.
Absolutely,
Be yourself. Believe. The sooner you believe in yourself, the better it is.
absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that's very, very important. And we need, more and more young girls to know this. You know. Okay. So this is the end of the conversation, but not the end of the podcast, because we do have the rapid fire round, which is 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. So are you ready for that?
Sure.
All right. So the first one: a habit or ritual that keeps you grounded when life feels overwhelming.
Fitness.
Okay, that's great. All right. The next one: a misconception people often have about working in the space of social impact.
I think sometimes people who choose this have a misconception that it doesn't pay back as well. It's a rather professional career if that's what you want to make of it.
Right. That is actually something that you need to understand. The next one value you refuse to compromise on no matter the context.
The ethical way of doing work.
Absolutely. That's so important, especially in this space.
I mean, there are no shortcuts and you shouldn't be looking for any.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. The next one thing you hope the women listening to or watching this episode truly believe about themselves.
That they can achieve anything they put their heart to.
Yes, which is so true. And lastly, a moment in your work that quietly reaffirmed why you chose this path.
What happens all the time, every time you visit the villages and you actually see what you have been able to transform, that's the moment that reaffirms what you're doing is the right thing.
Yes, I'm sure. So that's the end of the conversation. I think it is, how should I say, enlightening and very, very informative in various ways. First of all, this what you spoke about, the impact which work in this space can make. So if you're really interested in doing something for the nation, for people around you, I think looking at you and your example, a lot of people can take a leaf out of your book and say that, yes, if we put our mind to it and if we have the resources, we can definitely make a difference. But of course, this is not something which will happen. It's not an overnight thing. You've got to put in the effort consistently, patiently, and wait for results. But results will surely come if you have put in the right kind of work. So, what should I say? Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm sure our listeners will love listening to this conversation or watching the episode, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangeeta. And I must say the questions did make me think twice and deeper. So you really did, curate a very, very good set of questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to the AboutHer Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there's plenty more from where that came from. Our previous guests have shared some amazing stories, so be sure to catch up on past episodes. To keep up with our inspiring conversations and to never miss an update, hit subscribe, rate, review, and share the love. Follow us on social media for some great content, and don't forget to check out our website www.aboutherbysangeeta.com for stories that resonate, inspire, and empower. Know a remarkable woman or an inspiring man blazing a trail? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note at web.abouther@gmail.com and let's bring their story to life on the AboutHer Show.